And let us go. Alright. So, now the sound isn't coming out at all into my headset. Oh, wait a minute. I'm an idiot. I muted the game. Never mind. uh, uh, yeah, I've been so panicky about audio that that's how it's been. Let me see. Okay, back to about 75 to not blast my ears completely. Okay, are you loaded in? Ah, for Final Fantasy 16. Okay. Yeah, well, that's clearly your most anticipated game of the show. Yeah. Oh no! Oh gosh. Oh, with the size of games. Almost. Apparently there's another player ship here already. So, I might wanna get out of there right now. I've already emissaried and everything and supplied, so I just need to get this ship out of Dodge. Eventful show already. We haven't even talked about any of the insane gaming news this week. All right, just undoing the anchor and getting the heck anywhere but here. All right, yeah, I'm just gonna have this ship go in a straight line. Let's see. Like how the courses in Mario Kart. Just kidding. Well, we'll talk about that. But let's see. Oh yeah, right. I actually had to start a Voyage first. For Hunter's Call. I'm almost at 52 for that. All right. Sailing to location. Oh, well. Suppose I should have said dive, but whatever. If it's not too far, anyway. Sharkbait Cove, eh? Yeah, that's not far at all. I'll just sail us there. So hopefully you'll be able to either load in or, at the very least, mermaid to the ship. But I am very far past these people. So at least there's that. Once you're loaded in, we can start off the show. But how is Epicuniverse? Oh, a challenge, huh? Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I think that would for a lot of people. Yeah. Really? Huh. All right. Oh, inversions. The inversions would be the hard part for me. Her body is not liking. it. Alright, well now that you're officially on the ship, hello and welcome to SunnyRedemption Sailing number 33, your bi-weekly voyage for BS3 gaming news, where apparently I have an unstable connection. The one time that's ever happened in our entirety of playing Sea of Thieves, it seems. To Sharkbait Cove, which is where I... Yep. Some very efficient sailing there. But yeah, so why don't we kick it off with the least interesting showcase from this hilarious Summer Game Fest. The Summer Game Fest itself, because most of it was apparently Souls-like RPGs. And it's like, okay, I think the craze is peaking. It has to. Because, like, I think everything kind of blurred together. I had a similar criticism. I don't even remember the... Oh, yeah. Yeah, probably something similar. Something similar to how pretty much everything became a roguelike for a minute there after the Binding of Isaac and Enter the Gungeon, and then just like for the Souls-like trend in particular, what was that game where you were supposed to be a god hunter or something? It had some really clever ideas, including the idea of actually having difficulty options. I don't know why people were so up their own butts about doing something very basic, but well, that kind of hardness can sometimes paper over basic design flaws that make people angry, or design conventions that have to be included because, well, people will get mad at us if they don't. Like having all their enemies respawn. I've never really been a fan of that. I get why it is from a design standpoint, but just not my thing. Oh yeah, but it does it really well. Right, no. And now there's going to be a bunch of... And now that Clair Obscur has really burst onto the scene, there's going to be a bunch of imitators. But this may have been also the perfect time to announce a Final Fantasy Tactics remaster, which the State of Play did. That's like one of two pieces of news I actually remember from that, other than like the... Oh, hey, here's a trailer for a trailer, eventually, of Ghost of Yotei. We're going to have gameplay in August. Stick around. At least there's the release date now, which for like Sony's only big game this year. But like yeah, the other one was of course 007 First Light, which looks like the very handsome son of Uncharted and Hitman, because it seems like it has Hitman bits, but obviously it's not nearly as involved as Hitman because people want those, you know, carefree action moments in a James Bond game, as well as social deduction and you know, taking people out non-lethally, if at all possible. But like, though they did put in... No, you go. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that, like, at a really high level shows just how good Hitman is, and then, like, the floor is very, very low for me when it comes to that game, and I just can't. So, they're gonna need to raise up the floor a little bit in order to get people in, to stick around. Because it's a James Bond game, and it needs to be a bit more accessible. But, like... Well... they also want to reassure the Hitman fans that they actually have a handle on, like, the foundational gameplay once you get to those parts as James Bond. You know, so that's probably why they released the free Casino Royale villain for Hitman, to show that, yes, we are building on Hitman systems. Don't worry. Because that's been their big thing that they've been known for, so it was practically a match made in heaven. We'll have to see how the final game is, obviously, because trailers are really convincing nowadays. In film, yeah. Oh, yeah! What were those? Because I've heard of that, but... Ah, okay, yeah. Well, it's still sounding as dapper as ever, I suppose. Huh. Well, you're absolutely right about about Bond being in a weird place franchise-wise, because they probably are very, very high-level discussions about who will be playing the next Bond, because, well, there's going to be a contingent of fans who are going to be mad if it's not a white man, but then there's going to be a contingent of fans who are going to be mad if it's a white man. Because the culture wars are just there, overhanging everything. Oh, definitely, and of any interest. I mean, his schedule's full, especially with Knives Out 3 coming this Christmas, so, yeah, well, I guess they can take their time a little bit more now, because the beauty of video games is it allows for more preservation of a franchise than you can with a movie series that's tied to a single actor. With Order of the Giants DLC, for example, Troy Baker slipped into the Indiana Jones fedora like it fit him all on, and and he got the sign-off from the man himself, who has been fiercely loyal to and protective of this character. So, I think it's safe to say that the future of Indiana Jones is video games for the time being, until they can have enough distance where it's safe to reboot the movies or have some sort of spin-off TV show for Disney+. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, and I hope they don't use AI deepfakes or whatever, but apparently SAG-AFTRA has resolved the strike, or is about to. Like, there's going to be a vote very soon, because they came to some sort of agreement about AI and compensation and all that. Let's see if it's actually a good one for, like, the future of human art and participation in art. But, like, Fortnite is deploying this technology to its third-party partners, and Apple's just doing the same thing with AI for its third-party developers, which was the only interesting thing about WWDC, other than that they're now naming OSs after years, which makes logical sense, but feels weird to say. Because I've... Yeah. Well, I think it's more about the clever names. The clever names for dessert running out. Like... Well, I'm not very familiar with Android, as I literally only just started using an Android phone. Oh, wait, that was you! That's why I wasn't able to hook it. I thought that it was just swimming weird. But... Anyway. So... Speaking of the Xbox Showcase, I thought that was pretty good. I didn't watch the whole thing because I was, sorry to interrupt, because I was actually at Lilo and Stitch 2025 with my friends after having watched the first movie that morning on Sunday, and it was fine. The things that I didn't like about it, I really didn't like about it, like how they murdered Jumba's character and gave Pleakley a horrifying design with no drag and that kind of thing. I probably would have... Oh. Yeah, no. Spoiler alert from here on out, I guess. Yeah, because I can kind of see why some of the changes were made, like from a practical standpoint, such as Pleakley having to be erased and dragged because people are very sensitive about this sort of thing now, and feel like genociding us as a community is the way to go because some people felt badly, I guess, about having to use one more pronoun. I don't understand. But more to the point, like, I can see in a vacuum why they needed to do certain things, because after they decided that they did not want to make a life-size CGI Gantu, they needed a new villain, and so they went to Jumba. And they didn't want to be accused of him having a bad accent, so they went with the most jarring voice ever for it. I guess they really didn't want Pleakley looking weird, so they made him realistic? Like, no! That eye is too small! It's driving me nuts! And the most infuriating plot twist of all, that Nani is just gonna be able to conveniently commute via portal from school to home. I mean, yes, from a practical standpoint, it makes sense to show that girls who are shouldered with a responsibility of being a parent as a teenager should not necessarily have to give up their entire life. But this is why you don't make a live-action version of Lilo and Stitch, because the somewhat simplistic morality of the animated one was way better. Like, in order to have some of the similar beats of Nani being a struggling person, they have the neighbor who conveniently shows up at certain times to lend a hand, just not at others. Why? I don't understand. If you're gonna put this neighbor in, you have to rewrite the entire plot for her, which is what they kind of do, but then sometimes she just doesn't have anything to do. And it's not like it's a bad idea in a vacuum, but this is Lilo and Stitch you're talking about. There's a very delicate emotional chemistry that comes from all of the aliens being family, and to see Jumba get kicked out like that. Ugh. No. It's like, why did... Including me, but I would not have paid full price for a movie ticket. It's just that my friend gave me a gift card, and that's it. Yeah, because... Well, this is an era where experimentation is economically risky. Like, Warner Brothers Discovery is completely unwinding this week because it clearly did not understand what bets would work. In part, they really wanted the video games to prop up their TV business. But they also canceled the director's cut of Hogwarts Legacy and the DLC for it that was supposed to expand on things. And now we're making a sequel, but they laid off a bunch of developers, so that's going to take longer. And I guess they want to time it with the TV show reboot of Harry Potter that is completely unnecessary because there's going to be plot beats from Hogwarts Legacy 2 that tie in. Like, finally, you do the obvious thing, I guess, but, well, the plot of Hogwarts Legacy 1 was not anything terribly special except for Sebastian, who the fans have grafted onto for a reason. And he went to Azkaban in my playthrough, so... yeah, not sure how they're gonna really deal with that, but now it's being split up because they made bets when money was free, basically, and now everybody's being safe. Like, I've been hearing so many divisive takes on the Switch 2 and Mario Kart World in particular, because could this be Nintendo's riskiest safe launch ever with the tariffs? Absolutely. But they are evolving things in ways that are interesting, but also sticking to what works to some degree, because, well, it seems like with Mario Kart World, the highs are really high and the lows are really low for many people. And this is the only new first-party game, really, other than, well, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, that's available at launch, i.e. that isn't an update to an older game. And in any other console, this would be completely ripped apart. I'm sorry, the Nintendo charm of it all can only go so far when it seems like the open world is really empty. The few things that it does have for you to do, you can't track for some reason. And the online is having problems. People are complaining about many of the tracks being boring straightaways. And, you know, sometimes you do need straightaways in order to make things work. That's for sure. Like, you know, a sequel to a Switch was not going to radically reinvent the wheel on everything, but Nintendo did try something new with the mouse controls, at least, and also by paywalling a fucking button for after a year. I don't know. If only we could reassign that to literally anything, or if that had been my guess about, like, oh, hey, I'd like to put these controllers into mouse mode, like C for change something. I don't know. You know, I don't need to spend $500 on this, even though I do have a fairly extensive Switch 1 library, because that seems like that's the majority of the content. And that's kind of the same thing for Nintendo, or for Xbox and PlayStation when they launched. You know, Yeah, that's one of the old ones with the 2-hour battery, right? So the battery life stuff probably doesn't impact you as much. Well, new for Nintendo anyway, because like Street Fighter 6 has been out on other systems for a while, and has a $40 standard game on a game card in its entirety, and then the actual version with all the characters is separate on a game key card. Like, they don't even bother with that after a point. I mean, yeah, I always have been torn with Nintendo. Because I had to replace my Switch multiple times, if you recall. And that was an expensive endeavor. And then most of the games just did not perform to my standards in a lot of ways. The performance will be better, but... yeah. Oh, yeah. Right, yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it's about the new exclusives for a lot of people. They made enough for the expected demand from the hardcore, and the hardcore delivered that demand. So Nintendo perfectly calibrated the supply this time, so that's good. The main thing is, with regards to Nintendo, that the most Nintendo that I played this week is a little bit of Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. And I don't want a game that feels looser than that when it comes to the handling, because that would be a huge thing for me to get over, and it is a hurdle that other reviewers have said. But like, the most portable action that I've gotten is on my Steam Deck with Gettowork, which is the most infuriating game that I've ever played, but it's so much fun. It's, how to describe it? It's like, it has a Tribes feeling skating system, where you land downhill and then launch yourself, and, like, it has the feeling, yeah, it has a feeling very similar to Get Over It, of just trying to get to the top of something, with the goofiest looking model, probably something similar to Hitman dude, forgetting his name right now. But yeah, so that has been a incredible game. But I've only got into the first 3 areas in 9 hours. This is really, really hard, and has a lot of punishment for the slightest failures, and that's normally what I don't like, but I played it almost in a row, because it's so addicting. So, you know, in terms of portable stuff, I think I'm pretty good. And as for Slay the Spire, I kind of hate you because Slay the Spire has taken over my life a little bit. Which, going back and forth, I see what your point was last time offline about the fact that there's 1 level versus 3 kind of lending to some confusion, because it's cleaner. Yeah. I like feeling like I don't have one single point of failure to deal with. I still like Slay the Spire, don't get me wrong. It's very fun. But there is just something about Monster Train 2 that has me playing more of it in a row. I think it really is that, like, sense that I can come back a little bit from behind. Um, I mean, yes. I think I got the third one, that's the robot character, and that's who I've been doing the most progress with, because I think I played enough of it to unlock him, and then was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and quit. But yeah, sometimes it does take playing other games to be able to enjoy that older feel a little bit more, though. Well, oh, something's gleaming in the distance. Let me go get it. Sounds good. Yeah, that... I see what you mean about the elegance, though. It is nice to just have something a bit more straightforward with that. But reality is... Yeah, it's definitely... The synergies are a little bit easier to understand. Yeah, well, there's a lot of nerdy stuff around that I don't want to get into because that would take up the rest of the show. But, yeah, suffice to say that there really is no need for me to upgrade to anything right now. I mean, other people will feel differently because they've, you know, are super invested in that Nintendo Switch ecosystem. There is something really magical about Nintendo that is causing me to want to carry my Wii U with Mario Kart 8, Mario Party 10, Wii Play, and Wii Sports, and possibly Endless Ocean and Wii Wild Earth African Safari to New York when I go there tomorrow, just because it's Nintendo and they know how to nail family fun. So, like, Mario Kart World, if you have a lot of friends or family members, is definitely a much more tempting proposition than if you're just playing games alone, like me, without many people visiting or many Nintendo friends. I mean, that's really the rub of it, is how are you invested in this platform? Oh, a skeleton ship! Because, yeah. Why don't you do all the boring fishing stuff? No, not that the fishing is boring, but I've been itching to shoot something, and this fits the bill. Whoa! Well, yeah. Sounds good. Uh-huh. I mean, honestly, if this is like somebody's first foray into Nintendo and they have the money for it, then I think the Switch 2 could be worth it. Maybe you start off blank and try to save up money later. on the topic of Switch... Oh no! The wood barrel is cursed. Oops. Uh-oh, we're about to crash. Okay, well, let me throw that there. Ruin their day a little bit. Let me... Okay, well, the wood barrel appears to be uncursed now. But yeah, like... I think... when it comes to this, that... It really does sort of feel right now like the Switch 1.5 to a lot of people, and I kind of understand why. Because it really is just a performance boost for the Switch. And I know. Well, the thing is, and credit where it's due, they did actually try to get Mario Kart World working on the Switch 1. The main reason they didn't do it was because they couldn't get everything running at 30 FPS. Like, it doesn't feel like they just arbitrarily priced this game just to drive sales of the Switch 2 bundle, even though I can see why somebody would come to that conclusion. Because I think they originally did want to have the game for both systems, and thought that it was valuable at that $80 price point. But I also think that the relative failure of the booster pack compared to the base game of Mario Kart meant that they decided to just put everything all in. That's my theory, without any major evidence, that they just want to have everybody racing on the same karts and tracks and all of that. I mean, who knows? Maybe there will be an expansion pass for this game. Maybe it'll be free. I guess I should have expected that from Nintendo. I'll keep repairing. It's... Yeah, that might have been part of the reason they changed the handling. I'm not quite sure how that serves it, because that's the kind of thing that you would actually have to buy a Switch 2 with Mario Kart World in it for $500 to get. But for those people who have a Switch 1 and are looking to sell it, this basically does replace the Switch 1 in all but name, and so resale prices, I think, for old Switches are gonna fall quick. So that's the other thing. Yeah, and by the time I got to a similar point with my Xbox One X to the Series X, it was I got $100 in trading credit. You might be able to get a little bit more on the resale market, but that's, you know, with fees and shipping and etc. For some amount of money, yeah. Yeah, not quite as much of a path for somebody with a handheld PC. Like, looking to get what could potentially be an $800 to $1,000 ROG Ally with an Xbox skin. That's basically what it is. Well, it's some... Yeah, and that would presumably benefit other Windows handhelds down the line, as well as the Steam Deck for Windows mode, so I'm curious to see about that as well. Because as somebody with a Steam Deck, currently, I can tell you that it's the best handheld console I've ever played. From the way that the UI has been thought out for everything, to the way just games work. They just work. And you can tell when they don't. And even some of the ones that have question marks just run great all out of the gate. Like, I think... Let me check. I know Bloodshed just recently got verified, and it was really just some, like, UI issues. But Gettowork only has an orange eye, probably because of text issues as well. And those things are very easily fixed. It's just that Valve really likes to have very specific standards for its Verify program. And so Xbox really needs to get going on that too. Because, well, they have a lot of games that you could potentially pull from with Xbox Play Anywhere, which they reintroduced to great fanfare. I think that's more for the handheld Series S that is currently being delayed to fix this sort of thing for other handhelds after the Steam Deck expanded SteamOS to every other handheld that it could. I think the compatibility with the non-play anywhere console library will come later with the dedicated handheld. The thing that they've been criticized about for a while. Well, it would... So... that is the benefit of something like the Switch 2, because they have very rigorous certification for that kind of thing. Though sometimes I question what certification actually is when some games just straight up don't work on consoles the way they're supposed to without a second patch or what have you. But like, for me, I do have a lot of games that would be inappropriately expensive to try and rebuy on the Steam Deck, even though I love the experience of playing on the Steam Deck. When desktop games have worked with Heroic Launcher, for instance, it's been really good, and they have their own community verification program that has been a huge help in navigating that. But it's definitely something that I would like an official dual boot solution for from both Steam and Microsoft, because, well, the Microsoft of it all will be interesting. The handheld UI updates won't convince me to get possibly, again, $1,000 handheld. That's probably another reason why they delayed the handheld proper, is because they wanted to get the price down. Because even if you rip out an old Series S's guts, you still have to have a battery that can last at least 2 hours for most major games. Because, like, people are complaining about the Switch 2's battery life calibration problem, which is a problem. But the battery life is a very similar thing to the Switch 1 at launch, which, honestly, for the fact that they're running more graphically intensive games, is a pretty good thing, I think. I mean, honestly, most of the time my Steam Deck is just at home, plugged in. And sometimes that's because I'm stuck on a game that I know I won't be able to save the checkpoint at. So I keep it paused indefinitely, which is not great. Like, Get to Work. That's been a thing. Oh, or just a lot of runs of Crab Champions paused for a long time. Well, it's in sleep mode, which is actually pretty good. Oh boy, I'll get you. I'll get you. No! My god. You're right. Well, I have to bail for now. I have to bail for the time being because they're just hammering us. No! I didn't mean to put that back in the water! Why? Why did I do this? Okay, well, it's at least not filling up at such a dramatic rate that we're completely screwed. Oh gosh. But yeah, I gotta plug the hole a little bit first. Oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. Okay. We can do this still. Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna hammer them back. Because it seems like they were loading the mother of all cannon barrages. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Well. And the risky part is that in Season 17 we're gonna have giant exploding barrels. So I'm gonna be I'm gonna be a lot less risky than tonight for sure, and I'm usually not that risky. I'm just more than your zero. Oh god. Yeah, good idea. I'm just repairing and bailing. So glad I got full supplies for everything before we left. Oh, seriously? Oh god. Oh god, why did we do this? I'm trying to... Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. We can still do this. I believe in the power of friendship. Oh god! Ah! Well, this is what people watch SunnyRedemption Sailor for, is the mix of game chaos and gaming news. Gosh. Though less so than other games that could care to name cough split fiction. Though, I'm betting you anything that'll sell another 500,000 to 1 million copies on the Switch 2, easy. I couldn't find any documentation about a potential single Joy-Con control mode, and perhaps that would have been too hard to get working, and if they had, you'd know they would be crowing about it. But I had to check that out, because I would have said, like, if they have that, then maybe the move is actually to buy that instead of Mario Kart World for literally everybody who just wants a fun, not too challenging, but and I think that the challenge is mainly evaded by the accessibility options, such as being able to skip ahead entire checkpoints if you're really stuck, which I think I'll probably be taking advantage of when playing with my sister. I'll try and get through as much of it as possible with her successfully, but there were points where we struggled, and we're fairly, you know, experienced gamers in the action-adventure space. So, we'll see. It appears that the... Okay, it's dead. We have the loot. Phew! Well. That was amazing! Slash, how the heck are they this spongy? Is my other reaction. Huh. Well. Please record that part. Please record that part. Thank you. Ha, true. I'm gonna turn the ship ever so slightly to the right, so that I'm at least a little bit pointed towards you. Okay. Well, I guess we'll find out. Arrgh. Says start of Voyage. I'm guessing that was from a bottle you found in the water. Yeah, like, again, a lot of these decisions that are being made right now are based on a complete economic necessity, and I kind of get it. Even the charging for $10 for a tutorial, just because that seems like a really fun tutorial that they actually put care and passion into. So I again kind of get it. It's just that the other side of the equation at this launch full of safe nickel and diming from Nintendo, which is very, you know, them, is the fact that, you know, in a few months we could have tariff wars all over again, and they could finally shoot up to $600 in the middle of the year. And that's the thing that's scary about this time as a gamer, is all the political instability. I'll be honest, this was a very nerve-wracking Pride for me. For that reason, it was smaller, but still a lot of fun to see the World Pride Street Festival and hear the music and get a new top that I really liked, and skirt. So that was nice. But you know, all the things in Los Angeles right now make me like worried for a lot of reasons. But one of them should be for people who think that they can just curl up with their Switch 2s and ignore everything that's going on. That they may just not be able to get accessories or games or something like that, except digitally. Or on those stupid game keycards because of manufacturing issues. if like, I don't know, the military invades Mexico or something. Unlikely scenario, but there have been a lot of unlikely scenarios politically that have happened of late, and so it seems like everything is about reacting and trying to just protect your kingdom. Because I think that the Switch 2 will definitely meet its launch sales targets, but I'm not sure about the next few years. If inflation really takes hold in the modern consumer world, and people really are just like, well, I was kind of on the fence before at 450, but it's 700, no thank you. I mean, maybe some people will make a slightly less amount of money, but still a killing selling them on the private market, and sure that their scalpers try their best, even if they aren't getting as many as they would like. But, yeah, like, this is a safe console in risky waters. And, you know, it's great that Xbox has a bunch of games coming out this year, for instance, but one of them is a platformer where you're an anthropomorphic lighthouse, which is really cool, but I probably wouldn't bet on it being anywhere near as long or as justifying of $60, even if you didn't have Game Pass, as, say, Psychonauts 2 did, you know? And then there's the Outer Worlds 2. I just double confirmed the release date. I have a lot of gaming news swimming in my brain right now. Let's see. I mean, this is the Outer Worlds 2 is Xbox's first release, and it's set to be the big tentpole game at $80 for October 29th. And then there's the $60 remaster of a game from 2006. That's the main. Those are the main draws. Of course, there's Game Pass, but I'm starting to get cynically angry about the pricing decisions, forcing people effectively to subscribe to Game Pass, to pay forever if you don't want to pay once. And the fact of the matter is, subscription gaming does have a lot of upsides, but if that becomes more and more of a way that people play games out of economic necessity, then if, say, Sony struggles to release games and retracts in the PS6 era, then that could potentially mean that the console race is primarily between Microsoft, Valve, and Nintendo, all of whom, except for Valve, have had predatory pricing practices in the past. So, like, it makes me feel very uncomfy, all of it. Even if, as I want to celebrate the fact that there's a console launch in the summer Christmas of gaming, there's just not a lot that's super exciting to me. Like, Clockwork Revolution looks great. It looks fantastic. It looks exactly like the BioShock and Dishonored and what was it? And Singularity, Love Child that I've wanted for years in a steampunk environment. And I have to think about the fact that it took up so much of the show and is coming in 2026. Meanwhile, where's Everwild? Where's Fable? Where's Contraband? Okay, yeah. Yeah, they're still coming. State of Decay 3, hello? Oh, is that fishing spot exhausted? Sorry. Again, yeah. Back again in the era of free money with interest rates at basically zero, and so now again everything is about making the quick money. And again, I don't entirely blame the game industry with the volatile political environment right now, but it still feels kind of shitty after years and years of promising that they were gonna fix first party. They're still putting out about the same for first party, and even Nintendo, like they had some bumpy years with very few first party games, so it's probably just a decade-long problem at this point for everybody to fix. If they keep, especially if they keep freaking laying people off willy-nilly. I have to question, and I have to question how anyone thought that any single economic trend would continue forever. These are high-powered people in corporate offices who probably have been high on their own supply, and now are like, okay, AI is probably gonna replace a bunch of human roles soon. We better start cutting, and then oops, we accidentally fired too many people, and now we have to rehire them. That's kind of how the U.S. government is right now, and it seems like every job is at least paying lip service that I've been looking at is at least paying lip service to quote AI fluency, which really just amounts to a bunch of automated tasks being pushed by one single human finger, I guess. And soon we may not even need that. And as we mentioned, it's a good tool, but only if it's used for good. On data that you already have, and not to make a bunch of AI slop games on literally every store that just drown everything out. Like, I'm feeling pretty sorry, actually, for the Nintendo people who had to test thousands of 99-cent eShop games. Huh. WiiWare. Well, now people are just creating, now that's working well, because people are able to use what's known as virtual console injects to basically get perfectly running versions of DS games on the television. So that's pretty cool. But, like, this was also the days when Super Meat Boy couldn't get onto the WiiWare because if they were, like, over a certain limit, I think it was, like, maybe 60 megabytes, they had to... They would have had to print an entire disc for the Wii if they had gone over that limit, though, and so they decided to just be on Xbox 360, which had that angle, and then killed it. And then killed Xbox Live Arcade, which was idiotic. Hmm. now you have to buy a not terribly more expensive version of microSD called microSD Express for the Switch 2, and I understand, again, why they did it, but it definitely causes some problems if people are like, hey, I'm gonna bring over my games on a microSD card after selling my Switch 1, and then that doesn't work, because that's always been a bit of a pain in the ass if you don't have your Switch with you. Well, on a hard drive, not an SSD. Well, let's see. I mean, at least there will be a bunch of third-party guaranteed ports because the success has been there. So there will be quality games coming. The Switch 2 will be a success. I just worry if it won't be as much of a success as the Switch 1, then that contracts the entire platform. That's what the problem is with backwards compatibility, because you necessarily have to limit how far you can innovate the hardware in order to get everything to just work. And then there's all these legacy features that either have to be scrubbed out in very, very careful ways to avoid people getting angry, like the switch from microSD to microSD Express probably won't upset too many people, compared to, say, I don't know, the high prices of the Joy-Con 2s still, when they still have the same sticks as last time and not Hall Effect. Get your heads together, console makers, and make controllers that don't have to be completely replaced. Thank you. But like, you know, if this will all be our launch teething discussion will be very much in the past once Pokemon Legends comes out. Yeah. Yeah, even if it's not a full game. Yeah, no, that was the Perry made in heaven to finally have Pokemon on a whole console, and so they're just gonna keep growing with that. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, the game that I definitely think won't have performance problems, and that's probably why they limited it to the Switch 2, is Splatoon Raiders. Did you hear about that getting announced today? It'll be interesting to me to see what the price is, because if it really is sort of a spin-off, like a DLC that got too big, it could feel a little bit threadbare at 60, but maybe 40 would be fine for that. Let's see. Like, the problem is that a lot of people are getting price squeezed on these things, so we'll have to see how the launch year shapes up, really. Because this is about the same pattern as the Switch 1's launch was, with, like, the one big game everybody was talking about, Breath of the Wild, at that time, versus MarioKartworld. And I guess Switch 2 Welcome Tour, but that was kind of in the same conversation as Snipper Clips was for the Switch. A fun little experiment that you could pay money for if you wanted to, and not a tutorial. I guess just lowering that. And so, I guess let me know how Donkey Kong is once you get Switch 2, eventually.
I have tomorrow and Thursday off, so I might try casually hunting around to see if, I get lucky somewhere. Because again, I got very close to getting one. When I stopped at GameStop at a Dead Mall last week, I was like, hey, you have any left? Like, oh, yeah, I looked forward to that. It's not as if, like, they're not out there. You just gotta kind of get lucky.
Well,
I'll try a little bit while I'm out. If I do get one, then great. If not, I'm not like.
well, I'll be interested to see if you do manage to snag it. But, well, I probably will get one some years down the line when it's like the Nintendo Switch 2 OLED, because I've heard that, sometimes the graphics can be a little washed out with the larger screen for Switch 1 games and the lack of OLED. I mean, I understand, again, to save money, and that 120 Hz panel, from what I understand, was the wise move, because for some weird fucking reason, there's only VRR on the handheld side of things, not the TV. Yeah, that kind of shows that launch consoles have teething issues. Yeah, that's probably coming in a future update, because that's a TV recognition feature. And they have HDRs, so... I mean, yeah. That's probably what stings a little bit for me, because, like, Cyberpunk apparently has an unlocked FPS mode where you can go up to 40, and while that does divide in cleanly to 120 Hz displays, the problem is that the frame rate is apparently inconsistent, and so it's not actually a locked 40, which you would have to be running above that for that, and so it only probably feels perfectly comfortable to play on the handheld side of things because it can adjust the display. So, there's a lot more technical research that will be involved for someone wanting to buy a Switch 2 game in a store. Like, oh, does this have the whole game on it? Or is this a game key card? Or is this a game that has, like, the base game on it, but then you have to download a patch? Because some of the sizes are kind of ridiculous. I'm glad that they have the 256 is standard. That's great to have with flash memory, and probably wasn't entirely cheap, but they knew they had to do it. At least for the Switch 1 games, they probably won't take up as much room as a handful of Switch 2 games will once they come out. That is, again, the fact of the matter is that it's not a complete slate clean. That era of consoles ended with the 8th generation, so... there is going to be stuff to play for someone who has a bunch of Switch games. It's just, do you really want to pay $450 right now for a patch, essentially, and another $50 if you want the game that everybody's playing? But like, this thing will make a bunch of money. Everything here will make a bunch of money. It's not like, oh, is Xbox doomed? Is Sony doomed if they only have one first-party game? Because they already have the built-in audiences. It's just that, for Xbox in particular, I would have liked a little bit more consistency on the first-party messaging, and for Nintendo, I'm like, it would be nice if you threw in a few more things. And then for Sony, I'm like, well, hey, congrats on you for getting the marketing rights to 007 First Light, because I have no interest in anything else you put out. right now, and most of the stuff from the shows comes multiplat, so it's not like anybody's being left out in the cold. So overall, a pretty good game news season for starting off this summer, even if Summer Game Fest was a snooze. But yeah, I guess just let me know when you're on next. I mean, I usually am able to flex with them and you know, work around if you want to, if you're online. But I'll be back on the 17th, I think. Yeah, the 17th. Ah. Yeah. And, yeah, and as I mentioned last time, I have the negative integer rollover problem with my job, where there's just so little happening that I'm actually excited to be commuting into the office tomorrow. To have something concrete to accomplish that where I don't have to wait around for people to reply to me. But yeah, like, if you are on Sunday or Monday, then it'll just be us finishing Split Fiction, and it'll probably just be us finishing Split Fiction. If we're not, we're not able to do that, and it's later next week, because I think that, next show, maybe we finally finish the, we finally finished Sea of Thieves, Monkey's Island. I'm disappointed there wasn't a more ambitious crossover announced at the show, like One Piece, for instance. I had been predicting / looking forward to for a while. Hmm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's... Well, with One Piece Season 2 coming 2026, that would be the perfect time to do that. Yeah, and I would be ridiculously happy to see you in them, because I know that those will look cool and it'll save me money. If you get them instead. Anyway, yeah, I guess tentatively see you around Sunday or Monday. Otherwise, just let me know. Catch you later. Bye-bye. And you all have a good one, too.